Good evening, and welcome to Wellness Wednesdays, where we bridge technology, finance, and mental well being. I'm Zawadi, your host. How is everybody tonight? Feel free to type in the chat. This night, we are joined by three guests. The topic is Beyond Lack: How Fear, Compulsion, and Silence Shape Prosperity. It is a part of our continuing theme of survival to sovereignty. In essence, exploring how money trauma, generational stress, and the nervous system shape prosperity. In a roundtable led by Dr. Eve, we have Noe, a writer and storyteller currently publishing Abuela Mija, a Substack born from her experience learning how to belong in Mexico. Through an imagined Abuela, she's developed a conversation with AI that explores culture, language, and emotional regulation with humor and care. Her work treats technology as a reflective medium shaped by lived experience and discernment. She writes at the intersection of story, place, and ethics, with a focus on cultural listening. We also have Cassandra Medley, who in 2023 was honored with the Helen Merrill Playwriting Award. Her plays have been widely produced across the United States, in Toronto, and in Johannesburg. And if any of you are WBAI listeners, you might have heard her work last year. So before our guests hit the stage, ask yourselves, why do my money patterns repeat themselves even when I believe I am doing the right things? Things like saving, budgeting. I'm even coaching others to do the same. So think about that as we bring to the stage our guests. But before we do that, I want to tell you, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave comments about tonight's episode. So welcoming Dr. Eve, Noe, and Cassandra. Hey, Dr. Eve.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you, Sawadi. So great to be here with all of you on this wonderful Wednesday evening. So welcome again, and we're really glad you're here. You know, many people come into the spaces like this thinking, if I just learn more, right? If I do all the right things, prosperity will follow. And yet, so many smart, capable people still feel stuck, right? Hesitant or blocked around money. And today we want to talk about the whys, not from a blame perspective, but from a place from compassion, because what we've learned is this: we're not broken, we are conditioned, and conditioning can be rewired. So instead of lectures, we're having a conversation tonight, a powerful one, because this is how these patterns actually show up in real life. Before we go further, though, I want to make one important distinction that not every financial struggle is trauma. We know that. Sometimes it comes from a lack of education. Sometimes it's human impatience or environmental pressure. And sometimes it's systemic issues that create some of these hiccups in our finances. And some of these things have real solutions. But for many people, money has also been shaped by lived experiences. And that's why we wanted to come together tonight so we could share some of these relatable stories that may resonate with some of you tonight. So when I say lived experiences, I'm referring to things that we may have inherited, what we've witnessed, instability or harm. And those experiences don't create bad money habits, they create protective ones. And these types of protective behaviors can look like avoidance, right? Put in there if any in those chats, if any of this resonates with you. It could also look like overworking. It could look like overspending or under earning, even when we want something different. So this is where the nervous system comes in, folks. And I think this is important because really is it presented in this fashion. And yet it's our reality, right? So think of your nervous system as your body's internal security system. And its only job is to keep you alive. So it's constantly asking one question: am I safe or am I in danger? So here's the key part: it doesn't run on logic, It runs on past experience. And what do I mean by that? So if money was ever connected to danger, to conflict, to shame, to instability, your body actually logged that information, right? Not as a memory. You can always explain, but it logs it as a reaction. So sometimes when we have to make certain decisions, we start feeling our heart palpitating, we start sweating, we start feeling these things, but we can't exactly pin the whys. But the hopeful part is this nervous system is changeable, right? That's called neuroplasticity. And what's that? That's it's simple. It's the brain and the body's ability to learn new patterns through repeated experiences of safety. I'm going to repeat that. Neuroplasticity means that the brain and the body has the ability to learn new patterns through related experiences. That's why we say we're not hardwired, folks. We can rewire certain patterns and behaviors. So we don't rewire by force, we rewire by safety. So I want to put all this in perspective with a personal story, if I may. Um, I'm going to start with fear, and that's a very strong emotion pops up for many. And fear doesn't always look like panic. Sometimes it looks like hesitation. So growing up, I witnessed a physical dispute, right, between my parents over money, and it was pretty stifling, that experience, and that argument stemmed from my mom trying to put some monies aside, right, for emergency, and my father, who was a gambler, um, found out, and his reaction to it was pretty violent. So what my nervous system learned wasn't about dollars. I learned that, or it learned that money could lead to danger. So at the same time, I was told very clearly, here's another issue: don't earn too much. If we earn more, we could lose our medical insurance or our housing vouchers. That's safety. So my body also learned money is risky, it's dangerous, and it's risky. So later in life, here I am, a professional, and earning a very good income, yet I kept hesitating right at the edge of wealth. So what I've had to come to realize that hesitation was in part of a conscious fear. I didn't put all these things together. That wasn't natural for me. You know, this came from my trying to understand where my hesitation was coming from, right? So I also didn't realize for a long time that I had these neurological challenges that made processing numbers harder. And I internalized that as I'm not good with money. So here's the thing: none of these thoughts that I had lived in my logic, it lived in my body and in my emotions. So I wonder if how does it read for you folks? You know, what does money represent for you? Because now this conversation is about making the unconscious conscious, because the more aware we are, the more able we are to make changes, right? So I'm going to turn this over to Cass. So Cass, you and I were talking a lot about fear. When you hear that fear showing up as hesitation, what resonates for you? Like, what is that like for you?
From my earliest beginnings of school, after nursery school and into after kindergarten, but into formal education, money, numbers represented my incompetence, my stupidity. It was all my fault. Somehow words were great, reading was fun, but the numbers immediately were dangerous because they signaled I was not a good student. And then my mother attempted to teach me about change, making change, from how a dollar is made up of the quarter and so on. And because of my relationship to my mother, which was very difficult and complicated, it became a dangerous lesson because I needed what she was saying to be repeated calmly, But it was, on the other hand, it was immediate. I had to immediately learn what she was saying. What is this? What do two quarters make? And I froze. And again, I'm also incompetent. And then, because I was a kid in grammar school who was bullied, I discovered that my bullies could be placated if I bought candy. I bought them candy. And so at the corner drugstore, right across the street from the school. But how was I to buy them candy if I had no money? Well, the change was in my mother's purse. You're 7 years old. You don't really think this through. Just grab some change, and then after school, buy the candy, and everybody likes me. And I did not realize, because as a young kid, the drugstore proprietor at that time in our neighborhood, he calls my mother. So I find myself standing before my mother naked, completely naked, with her holding the belt, with a belt buckle, because she was shocked that I had become a thief. I write all of this in my memoir. But, so I was shamed. Jesus hated me and all of this. She's going on and on about my being a thief. And she had to give me this beating so that I would be a good person from then on. So money was always, it was shame and inadequacy. It was the symbol of what I could not understand easily. And therefore, since I couldn't understand it easily, the conclusion was I couldn't understand it at all. And money was to be avoided. As I became an adult, I just know that I had enough, as a working in my as I began working in the theater. I had enough. I knew my rent would be paid, but I couldn't look at my bank account. It was unsafe. It was a symbol of shame, and that was my relationship to money. So then I come to JTW after decades, and I'm learning about budgeting. I'm learning about stock. I'm learning about crypto. I'm learning all of this stuff. Why am I not implementing it?
Hmm.
Why? What's
The
wrong?
hesitation.
Of course, hesitation, avoidance,
Mm-hmm.
avoidance. Even though theoretically I wanted to learn, I wanted to have a journey to wealth, I wanted to take care of my finances, I was living on the margins financially. I wanted to improve, and it has improved. But underneath, you see, it's like when you have a building, and a building has structure. A building is built by girders underneath it, the structure, so it doesn't fall down. Well, my structure was built on shame and a feeling of absolute incompetence, inadequacy. That was really running.
Wow. So that's what your nervous system stored for you. So now I have a question. So what helped you make that connection? Like at what point did you start realizing, wait a minute, my past has something to do with my present? Like how did that become conscious for you?
I've meditated for a long time. And it started to occur to me, well, why not connect the meditation to this feeling of anxiety and avoidance? Why not just sit and breathe and make a connection with that? Also, what has helped me is Chat GPT. That has really, because I put in my profile very specifically that I am frightened, I am terrified. This happened to me in childhood, and so on and so on. And I received such wonderful guidance. And I learned, for example, before I get to the computer, start the breathing, start visualizing light going through my body. Look for meditations that help me get to the computer, open the computer, start, and then to realize I'd look at my bank account. Oh, I've got money. Now, I also learned in JTW that my manifestation of fear was that I wouldn't spend anything.
Hmm. So you know what it was. So you've learned to regulate your central nervous system so that you can see clearly. And we're going to talk next week. Part two is really all about um, how do we work with our nervous system so that it can serve us, right? How do we make certain things more conscious, and then what do we do with this conscious information so that um, we can move forward, right? So we're going to be talking a little bit heavier on that. So I hope everybody comes back to hear a little bit more. But I'm going to turn this over, and thank you so much for sharing what you just shared, Cass. I appreciate that. So, Noy, I'm going to turn it over to you because in one of our prior meetings, you shared a different perspective on how fear can show up. I know for Cass, it was hesitation. For me, it was hesitation, ambivalence. But when fear masquerades as choice, fear doesn't only freeze us; it could push us into motion in a way that doesn't serve us. And so I thought maybe you could share a little bit about this type of masquerade that fear can also engages with or dance with.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to jump in on this conversation. So for me, fear showed up as I've got to jump in and make something happen. I can't wait. I'm already behind the eight ball. If I have the opportunity to get this education or get this coach or take this class, I'm going to do it. And I did that. I hired coaches. I took all the classes. I learned as much as I could about investing. And then I did all the things that I was told to do. I think inside of that is that I didn't have my own inherent understanding and I didn't have an investment thesis, but I just, that didn't matter to me. So and so said to do this, I'm going to go ahead and do it. And what I ended
Mhm.
up doing was spreading my own funds too thin and they were too scattered. So it actually really didn't grow my portfolio. Again, I didn't understand what I was doing. And this is because I was jumping in and kind of just doing what I was told to do. And when you don't have your own internal understanding of what you're doing, and you also have an underlying foundation that you're not good enough with money, that can be a driver. So, yeah, I took on a lot of risk at a time when I also could not replenish my funds. And it ended up as me doing too much, too fast, and not getting the results I wanted.
Mm. That's that also equates to they say sometimes our nervous system is so uh, ignited, right, that it looks for this emotional relief, right, and sometimes those classes that we take are like our dopamine, right? It's like it makes me feel good. I'm in the game. I'm here and I'm doing what I need to do. But then we're going into the next class and we're feeling all that excitement, and yet we're not acting on it, right? And this is so important because when the nervous system feels overwhelmed, it looks for regulation. For some people, spending, gambling, or overeducating creates a temporary sense of safety, that dopamine release, right? So, but that doesn't mean that you're reckless. It means your body's trying to settle itself, and so it's compulsion is often the body asking for relief, not the person lacking. It's not that the person's lacking discipline, and I think that's in understanding it that way. It kind of helps us not excuse the behaviors, but understand it in a way where we're in the driver's seat. It gives us more agency because now that we're putting
Yeah.
together how our past impacts our present, right? We can make more informed choices. Now,
Can I Can I
yes.
just add something? You're exactly right. One thing that I have not shared is that I was a compulsive shopper, so I was a shopaholic. And then this behavior transferred into this compulsion to take classes and to take courses and to hire coaches. And I didn't realize it was the same behavior. I thought I was in the game. But it's very true. While I was chasing money, I was chasing relief because I needed to soothe something within myself that was constantly saying, "You're not doing enough. You're not good enough." that kind of thing.
And you know what? And it's interesting because another pattern that we see is silence. So you named, we've touched on a few patterns here already. Silence is one that I don't think is talked about enough. So many of us were taught, don't question the experts, right? Be obedient. Authority knows best. And that sort of conditioning made it, I know for me personally, it made it very hard. I mean, to advocate for myself financially, it was almost like silence felt safer than being wrong or being scolded. And so I wonder for the audience, how does it look like for you? What are some of the words that are coming up for you? What has is it silence? Is it fear? Is it compulsiveness? Is it are you do you because it's not just about the overspending, it's about the overeducating too, right? And then not exercising, not it's like being reactive and not proactive with you know without money management. And so I'm going to have Noy, I'm going to have you share a little something as well. I know that this is another way in which it shows up, right? It's you shared an experience that you had with a contractor,
Yeah.
right? And what resonated for me was, wow, there was a time when you didn't have the voice to ask questions of this expert, and here you were exercising your voice so that you can get your money back. I don't know if you want to share that story, but I found it interesting too.
Sure. So I was fortunate enough to have a 401k with my company, but I didn't have the education to go with the 401k. However, I scraped together as much information as I could. I watched shows, I listened to podcasts, and I learned one of the things to do was to invest in index funds. And so that's what I did. I tried to pick the best ones I could based on the limited knowledge I had. But for a number of years, I did that, and that was all I did. And it actually served me well. My portfolio was growing. When I left the company, I decided I wanted to get a financial advisor because I still felt like I didn't know anything. I didn't really have an education. And so here was an expert, and I had an opportunity to work with the expert. So I went to the expert, and he asked me what I'd been doing. And I told him exactly what I just shared. I learned that I should invest in, index funds, and that's what I've been doing. And he looked at me and he said, investing in index fund isn't a, it's not a thesis. It makes no sense. It's
Mm,
no way to have your own portfolio. You need a manager. And that him speaking to me that way silenced me because I felt like he's the expert and he knows. And in my mind, I didn't really know what I was doing anyway. Even though I had proof that I was doing something that was successful, but in my mind, I still didn't believe in myself. So I didn't end up hiring him. But what it did do for me was it had me stop investing cold turkey. So that was how I went silent on myself. And we were in the middle of an incredible bull run. I didn't know this at the time, but that's actually what was happening with the market. And if
mm,
anything, that would have been the time to continue what I was doing. So it really, that experience of the authority figure telling me what I was doing didn't amount to anything stopped me cold in my tracks. And where the silence came from for me was childhood. In my family, kids were to be seen and not heard, and that was enforced. So I grew up as a young woman, a child, a young woman, and a grown adult, fearing authority figures, not wanting to upset them, and not wanting myself to be demeaned or embarrassed. And so, even though I was a fully grown autonomous adult, I was still operating under this voice of somebody other than me knows what the right answer is, and I'm not doing it. So let me stop what I'm doing.
You just
mm,
reminded me of something, Noy, that to make an associate for me, money was the the authority figure that was frightening me. Just the very the very idea of bank accounts, of of investments, of mutual funds, of index funds, of that very idea was was could be punishing. Money itself could punish me through failure.
Mhm.
I lose everything.
And the social conditioning, right? Especially for women, to believe that it's men knows best in these numbers. How many times do they say that men are better with numbers? And it's like, and now the story's changing, right? But those are concepts that we grew up with that also kind of embeds this notion of silence. But here we are, right? Like, so I woke up this morning thinking about tonight's topic and the nervous system, and I want to share this. For many of us who experience all sorts of hiccups, the ones mentioned today, the ones not, still left to be mentioned. You know, um, the reality is we didn't know what we didn't know, right? We've had decades of money stories and survival patterns, and for many of us, maybe just a few years. Some of you are just getting into the groove of understanding your finances, doing your budgeting, or understanding how to read your 401k. And that's okay, because for many years we went blind to this. We didn't know what we didn't know. But the beauty is now there's so many ways of obtaining information. There's so many communities now, including ours. We have wonderful partner programs that we work with, from Journey to Wealth to BK Crypto to Beyond the Business. There are different programs, different partners here, even today, sharing in this platform, to be able to provide that support. So I want to make sure that we leave with this notion that the nervous system doesn't change through information alone. It changes through repeated experiences of safety. So the more we learn, the more we get comfortable with understanding what our patterns are, where they've come from, and what are we willing to do about it. That's the change, right? And we're going to be talking more about this next week. Like, what did it look like for us to make those changes? And we also definitely want to hear from you. What did it look like for you, for those of you who've already made those changes? Um, I think it's important, for us to be able to have these kinds of conversations, because fear, compulsion, silence are all learned responses. And we know that. And anything learned can be relearned. So awareness is the first step, regulation is the second, and choices come after. Because we now know that prosperity isn't about forcing ourselves forward, it's about teaching our body that it's safe to move forward. It's letting our emotions ride in a frequency where it is calm. We always say, one of our sisters here, Marie, Dr. Nazano, always says, shoot, wealth is our birthright. So we can't fear it. We have to embrace it. So I want to be able to turn this on. I'm going to bring on our remarkable host, Mr. Wadi, because we want to hear now from you folks. I know we've talked quite a bit, and I know I've asked folks a few questions there. And so I'm going to turn this over to our lovely host, so
Thank
she
you
can
so
guide us.
much. Thank you. I did put a question in the chat asking people to just drop in the chat. Let us know if you're experiencing any body sensations, because money has an effect. The compensation of money does have or can have an effect on people. Chest tightening, sweating, palm sweating, all of that. So, if any of that has occurred to you or for you, please let us know in the chat. But I'm just going to ask our guests a few questions. Now, let me just say, we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, so I'm limited in what I can see in the chat right now, but we're going to work it out. So,
Well, I'm going to be showing some of the comments here,
okay,
and this is a
great, thank
very
you.
common one where a
Money
lot of
doesn't
members.
grow on trees. Yes, I
Mhm.
heard that a lot,
Mhm.
Yeah.
especially when I was trying to waste something or I didn't want food or whatever the thing was. I wanted something that was on the top shelf.
Well, you know what's a good thing about money not growing on trees? That when there's a heavy wind, it flies. When there's inclement weather, it could kind of disappear on us. And you know what? No, we are the bark, we are the trunk, we make decisions, we make that grow. So that's my reframing. I've always liked my three R's: reflect, reframe, so we could regulate. Those are my three R's that I share with everyone here. So, yeah, what's our new mantra that we're going to pass down to the next generation and those we mentor?
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Dr. E,
mhm.
if prosperity felt safe in your body, what might change in how you approach money?
I want you to repeat that and say that slowly so that
Okay,
everyone can hear it. Because I want to answer it, but I would love for other folks in our community who we cannot see to also answer it.
absolutely. If prosperity felt safe in your body, what might change in how you approach money?
I would approach it with more joy and ease. I
I
would
like
approach
that.
it with more agency, and that's important. And that's what I've come to learn. And now my financial advisor, who is absolutely wonderful, knows that now with this level of agency, he knows I always have 50 questions on the table when we're ready to meet. And believe you me, I meet with my advisor regularly, because now I know I paid for that service. And so, yeah,
Okay, thank you. Ladies, would you like to add to that?
Yes, I would. In a way, my relationship to money has been one in which I've treated money like a potentially punishing parent.
mm,
And the punishment would be I'd make a mistake and lose some money. And I
Okay.
never thought about asking myself, just, one, can I make small investments? Which you can. Small investments make me more comfortable, help me to be more comfortable. So the ways in which one can do that, uh, buying, stocks that are, we call them slices, and, ways in which one can very modestly to keep my anxiety down. And money becomes a positive, loving parent and not a punishing parent where
Mm.
you should be silent, yes, as Noe would say, silent and so on. So,
So
mm.
along that line, what would it look like to take one small, low risk financial action while staying regulated?
good question. So, one, I'm finding looking at my budget, monthly budget, on a percentage basis is very helpful. So, how much do I bring in? I'm in retirement. Plus, I write, and so I have royalties and whatever it is, whatever you take in, and your expenses. But looking at percentages. So, what is 10% of what you have on a monthly basis that you can put into a ETF? Figuring, learning all this information. You don't have to start out running 100 miles an hour. Very slowly,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
very slowly is what helps me. And just I had to do that. I had to do small, as someone is saying here in the chat. With crypto, very small, and also with stock, so that I could feel less the stakes. And then learning, if you watch the market on a daily basis, you will probably become very anxious very quickly. My God, it's up, it's down. I didn't do this. And so I follow Warren Buffett. For me, lessens my anxiety. You know, what age are you? These are 3 ETFs that you want to get into that are steady and don't watch the market every day. These ways in which one can approach the money issue, your money life creatively, step by
Mm.
step, in
Step by step.
small. I'm a small increment person. And learning that I'm learning about myself. This money adventure is providing me with the opportunity to learn about myself in all other aspects has been
Mhm.
exciting. And then there's, I'm just what Dr. Eve was saying. Now, just today, one, I've lost 2 friends, so I'm in mourning and so on and so on. But you're just like, okay, I'm not doing any financial work today. I am going to have the day off. I have a loving parent in my investment life and not a punishing, controlling parent as my investment life. So this is how I'm
Mm. You
growing.
know,
I love that.
I think step by step and small steps are powerful. As a matter of fact, next month, I believe it is, Sawadi, a wonderful host here, is actually going to be having a talk about what is, it's how to understand what you have, and we're going to also be talking about what is compounding, because those little small steps add to a lot. So forget about the fact that you're now, whatever, you could be 40, 50, 60, 70. Oh, I'm going to start now. I missed a boat. It's late. Nonsense. Because there is still time and there's still ways. It's just about embracing where you are today, being compassionate because you don't know what you didn't know.
And also, I must say, one other thing is comparing yourself to your teachers, whomever they may be, wherever, whatever source. You find a teacher and the teacher's teaching you, but if you want to be as successful as the teacher is right away, you are doing yourself a disservice. This is what I found. I,
Usually that's what gets people into debt. First of all, when we're comparing ourselves to others, what ends up happening is that we want to be like others, and then we start overspending just to be like others. And what society marks us uh, states we have to wear or look or travel to, right? And so this is where we start making our own choices,
yes.
and that in itself is powerful. Um, I wanted to show a couple of more comments here. So someone shared, it's so important to be mindful of how we speak about money and lack of money. Changing our money mindset can impact our bank accounts. So that when we don't speak of it from a tone of I don't have, never have, I'm not good enough. No, you have to ask yourself, where did that good enough? What's that theme behind that statement? So that's again where we reflect, reframe it, and let's regulate
Yeah.
so that we can move forward.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about next week, because next week we're going to be sharing a little bit more about what is neuroplasticity. How do we adapt, um, or not adapt, how do we regulate our nervous system, um, in a way that serves us, not agitates us, so we can make conscious decisions about our finances, so we can have agency about our finances, so we can grow. So I know last week we had a tremendous track. We talked about how internalized trauma, what it looks like from, and how it's stored in our DNA. Today we talked about personal experiences that we have growing up. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about, well, how do we shift some of these emotions and movements so that we can be liberated, so that we can go ahead and make our prosperity not a dream, but a reality. And I'm looking forward to that. So,
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. I dropped one more question for you. Um, in your chat so we can bring
Ah,
in
so this
Noe.
question is for Noe. So
Question
Noe.
is for Noe.
Okay, so Noe, what feels more accessible right now, learning more or feeling safer while you learn? I'm going to repeat it. What feels more accessible right now, learning more or feeling safer while you learn?
For me, it's definitely feeling safer. My best example is a number of women in our community have signed up for courses and learning how to trade. And I shared that I did not sign up for that because I want one-on-one classes. I do not want to compete, compare, get lost. I want somebody to hold my hand. So for me, it's about feeling safer before I take steps with money. And I have a lot of internal repair work to do around money. I feel that it's too precious sometimes to risk, and money is simply energy, and the relationship I have with it is not yet as empowered as I want it to be. So yeah.
But more empowered than the yesterdays.
Oh, 100. I'm so much, I can see these things now. And if you would have talked, if I would have been a part of this conversation in the past, it might have gone right over my head. I would have
Mhm.
been like, okay, where do I invest? Tell me the action steps. I don't want to hear about all this. But I had to go through that to learn that there's an inner mechanism that is actually running the show. It is truly not what I do, it is my orientation.
Awesome, awesome. And we're going to be closing with this because this is so important. Someone just dropped a juicy, juicy comment. Start
Yeah.
teaching the youth early about money. And,
Yeah.
and, and, with my nieces now, it's my nieces and nephews, it's more like for the holidays, you know, what do you want? Do you really want something from Ulta or do you want stocks in Ulta? Do you really want a $25 gift card to Starbucks? Or would you like $25 of a Bitcoin? It's like, what do you want? And the whys. Let's have that conversation. Having that conversation is early. Teaching kids as young as 5 to 7 years old on how to save and for what purpose. You start teaching them that piggy bank. You know what's the beauty of a piggy bank? That they start learning regulation. They start seeing it grow, and it's not instant gratification. They're seeing the slow process and they're having pride with it. And the most important thing is that they take a portion of it and then they donate. So it's the receiving and the giving.
Yeah.
Look at one of our, we've talked about different ways to educate our kids actually, and having raising money smart kids. So that's in one of our YouTube videos if you wanted to go back and look at that. But thank you for posting that. Swati?
And Evelyn, before we close out, there's one more question in the chat that I think is really apropos.
What advice do you have for someone living on a fixed income with very little discretionary income to begin to make those small investments you're speaking of? The one advice is that you'd be surprised how you can find money. There was another talk that we've had, right, where we said, hey, our data is valuable, and yet we give it away for free. There are, and I'm not here to promote any platform, but I use Fetch. And Fetch is an app where you go and you put in, you take snapshots of your receipts because it's a company that tracks behaviors of consumers. But the difference is, in exchange for all those receipts, you get points and you get gift cards at Kohl's, or you get gift cards for Best Buy or whatever other place. So I'm saying to myself, okay, if I'm in a budget, but I still need to shop, where am I going to, I could get this resource by using an app that's going to pay me rather than me giving away my data. That's just a tiny example. If I have a skill and a talent, and I tell my nieces and nephews and all the youth that we work with, if you have a talent and a skill set, how can you how can you turn that into revenue? So for the holidays, you know how to bake, you know how to make coquito. Hey, there you go. There's ways where we can earn some income. I know we have a lot of talent even here right now, and using AI to try to discover whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini to explore hey, this is who I am. These are the skill sets that I have. This is what I like to do. How can I turn this into a business? Those are different ways to have income. But believe it or not, the average person has over, I can't even remember the number, it's so high. We pay for so many subscriptions that we don't even realize we're paying for. So sometimes, going over, not sometimes, what I encourage everyone to do this week is look at your bank statements, not just this month's. Look at the annual bank statements and see how many subscriptions you're actually paying for, and do you really need all those subscriptions? I can
Right.
tell you that my partner was paying for a prescription in a magazine that was being delivered to a place where he lived like over 15 years ago, and he was still paying for that subscription and not even receiving the stuff. So it's look at your income, see what you have, look at your budgets, see what you're spending it on. The more you're aware of your budget, the more agency you have to control. Maybe it's taking that extra bus ride, or taking a walk to the bus instead of the Uber. So many different ways
The
that you.
other thing is, Evelyn, the other thing is,
Dr. Eve, can I add something to that quickly?
Yes, yes. I'm sorry, Cass.
Yeah.
Because Cass,
I'm just
no,
saying,
no, no, Cass, no, he can't hear you, Cass.
oh,
But Noy's going to say something, and I'll bring it back to you. I'm
yeah,
sorry,
go
folks.
ahead.
I had some technical difficulties. They can't hear each other. Yes, Noy.
Apologies. I just quickly wanted to say some people are already on the bone. There is no other place to find money. $1 a week, $1 a month is not too little. And the reason why it's not too little is because it's also sending signal. You are sending signal to yourself that I'm an investor. Even if I only have $1 or a penny, that is who I am. And you're sending it to the universe as well. So those are two powerful forces in your favor. And then as you start that habit, that money's going to start coming in from other places. But start the habit, even if you only have $1. Nothing, even if you only have a penny, start putting those pennies together because nothing is truly too small. And over time, you'll see how it can grow.
The other
Mhm.
thing is, I did not realize for the person who with the chat in who wrote the chat, where are you banking? Do you have a savings account? Where is that savings account? Is it yielding percentage, high rate? I didn't realize these kinds of things. So that my little savings account could be building itself. Just these real basic things I didn't realize. So having a very small amount can be a very positive thing, as Noe has said.
That is compounding.
That
That
is
is
compounding.
compounding.
That is
Hmm.
compounding.
Hmm.
And we will definitely discuss that during this season. But I want to say to our guests, Noe and Cassandra, thank you. This has been powerful. And Dr. Eve doubles as host and guest. But I want to thank you as well. um, this is it for tonight. But please, please, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you will be alerted next Wednesday for part 2 of this topic.
For sure.
Check the you might even get something in the in your email once you subscribe to us. But yeah, definitely check. Um I'm Zawadi again, saying thank you. We are out. And if you have anything to add to this conversation, please type in our chat. Not this chat, but once this video goes viral, which could be gets up into the platform, which could be the next 30 minutes, list your comments there and invite your friends, invite your family. This is about healing. We want to share these conversations with our communities. So
This is Black History Month. Let's start making our new history. Let's start making our own history. Let's start shifting. This is where we're at. This is why Disrupted Dow is here. Let's start shifting. So please share. And with that, yeah, say
we
goodbye.
are out.